Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Brainy SLP. I wanted to share in today's channel a little bit about three of the areas that I found to be really important to supporting all learners with success, both academically and socially. The first area is executive functioning. And I talk a lot about executive functioning, but when we're thinking about how to define executive functioning, the executive functions are basically a group of cognitive processes that allow us to act in a regulated, goal-directed way. Meaning I describe it as we are able to open loops and close loops successfully and continuously throughout our day. So we're able to start and stop tasks in a timely way and get done what we need to get done academically, socially, and personally. And those three domains are all really important. Are we able to kind of fulfill personal routines? Are we able to fulfill academic routines? And are we able to be successful socially, and however we define that for our own terms? So executive functions, often defined very differently by many different researchers. And I often am the first to say that there's still a lot we do not know about executive functioning. But what we do know is that it's the group of cognitive processes that allow us to act in a regulated, which is kind of a focused, goal-directed way. Now, one of the things that I really like to challenge, and you'll probably hear me talk about this a lot on this channel, is that I often see school teams creating self-regulation goals for students. And what I want to do is encourage everyone to think a little bit differently, because prior to the development of self-regulation, which if you read George McCloskey's work on executive functioning, self-regulation basically is a term used to encompass all of the executive functioning skills that we use on a day-to-day basis. So if we are a self-regulated individual, we've got organization skills, we've got flexibility, we've got emotional control, we've got impulse control, planning and prioritization skills. All those skills are really working at a fairly typical rate. When we become dysregulated, typically it's because one of those facets is either functioning a little bit differently, or many of those facets are functioning differently. And as we talk about executive functioning, the loop between all of the skills is really close. So if one skill is affected, it's likely that others are too. But usually when we look at an executive functioning profile, a student has a lot of strengths often, and then some growing areas. So it's important to be talking about and looking at the executive functioning profiles that exists. But thinking first about executive functioning or self-regulation, and asking crucial questions first, like, are we really engaging in co-regulation with a student? And co-regulation is essentially providing warm, responsive relationships, structuring the environment, and teaching and modeling self-regulation skills. That's the real crucial part of this. Providing a warm, responsive relationship is also very important, as well as structuring the environment in a way that makes sense for the learner. But the real key is, how often is the student being taught and having skills modeled for them? So when I see teams creating self-regulation goals, I'll often ask questions of, self-regulation is a great long-term goal, right? Even as adults, we are learning how to self-regulate. Think about the last year during the pandemic, how hard it's been, and how much we've really had to kind of drive ourselves to get motivated to do a task, or drive ourselves to complete a task. That's self-regulation, being able to close loops and open loops. But what I say is co-regulation is where it's at. So how often are you teaching and modeling those skills directly, concretely to our learners? Because executive functioning skills are necessary for both academics and social work. Remember, impulse control is the same facet that's involved with me learning and unlearning rules continuously. It's the same facet that I use for that I use for not kicking or punching somebody who just took my block from my tower. The same skills are used. We use them academically and socially. So when we think about executive functioning or self-regulation skills, we teach them for an academic and social benefit. The other two areas are social communication, and I separate them sometimes into socialization and communication. The reason why I do that is socialization skills I often think that I ask students, what does it mean when I say somebody's social? What do you think of when I say somebody's social? It often means, and what people think of when they say they're social, they're able to interact with others with ease. And it's a pretty subjective opinion, right? You might label somebody social that I might not have the same qualitative definition for. But social is really the ability to relate to others and show that awareness of how to relate to others. Now, everyone relates a little bit differently, and that's awesome. What I teach is strategies for how to take perspectives. So, all of those theory of mind skills, how to take perspectives and how to communicate that you are taking perspectives. We know our neurodiverse learners have a host of empathy. They have a lot of theory of mind skills that often are challenging to tap into because of communication barriers. So teaching how to communicate awareness of theory of mind, how to communicate and really dive into those facets. For communication, I normally teach how to initiate, maintain, and terminate communication. And one of the real things, and I'll probably do a separate video on this for maintaining, is I'll teach students how to connect information and conversation. So when you think about when we have small talk, which I'll really describe to students as kind of a precursor, very basic way of starting conversation with people you don't know very well, or it's a way to start a conversation that gets deeper. But typically I say small talk is, how are you? How's your day? Very basic level questions that ask about somebody's general experience in the world. But as you get closer to somebody, you really want to find out more about them. And you want to really build up your people file about them. And the intent or the hope in a real friendship is that they also build up a file about you. Because friendship is bi-directional. I care about you and you care about me. It works both ways. And I should be wanting the best for you and you wanting the best for me. That's a true friendship. So those are the three areas that I think about as an SLP when I dive beyond the initial language component. I'm also thinking about executive functioning. I'm thinking about socialization, and that I'm thinking about communication. Some people might be saying, but what about play? I typically will lob play under executive functioning because remember, executive functioning skills are the ones that you need on the playground and in the classroom. Oh, one more thing. When I think about play, that even goes a little bit deeper because when we think about play, I also am thinking about, have I taught the student how to play with a given object? Like, do they know what to do with the object? And have I taught them how to play with the object with people? Because those are two separate skills. If I'm building a tower by myself, that's different than playing a board game back and forth, where I have to be paying attention to the other student or the other learner that's at the table. There's a lot of skills. There's a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of awesome to celebrate about all of the amazing brains in this world. I can't wait to come back and talk again. Have a great day.